Welcome to a camera comparison between our OnePlus 13 and the Vivo X200 Pro, and finally the Oppo Find X8 Pro. So all three models with the front-facing cameras, they can shoot 4K 30, 4K 60 frames per second. Walking down some steps now, that's a good test of our electronic image stabilization. So the microphones, I'll be swapping over the sources here. There is a little bit of a breeze, so we may hear some wind noise with these. And just to point out that they are on the latest firmware, all three of these phones, and I have cleaned the lenses. Ultra-wide cameras here now with electronic image stabilization. The footage is quite steady, as you can see. It's doing a good job, although when you're looking at the live preview, it does look like it's shaking around everywhere, except for the Vivo seems to be the steadiest here. Now over to the main cameras. They can shoot 4K 60, 4K 30 and 8K 30 with the OnePlus and our Vivo, but you can't with the Find X8 Pro. For some reason they just don't allow that. It can do it, the hardware can certainly do it, but I don't know why they've done that. It's just the way it is. So I have the Castle of Denia here, and I want to zoom into this. So I'll start off with the optical zoom max, 3.7 times. With our Vivo, 3 times with our OnePlus 13, and 6 times here with the Oppo Find X8 Pro. So I can see there's a person up there, or is it a seagull? No, that's a person there. Okay, so we'll step this up now to then 10 times. You can see there's 2 people there. And zoom in now with the OnePlus. So that is now 10 times. Bit hard because the sun is behind them, so very difficult conditions. 10 times zoom now with the Oppo. So which one do you think has the best zoom footage here? Back to those main cameras, and to test out the stability, just a bit of a light jog. All three are looking quite steady, but it looks like one is slightly better than the other. Low light now with all three, and this is where we've seen before with the Vivo, it suffer with drop frames and some judder. Noticeable judder when I panned with the first firmware, but it's had 3 firmware updates now, and I don't seem to be seeing that same problem we had before. However, there is like this glare that comes from the lens. You may see it sometimes happening. Now, if I face towards this light here, there we go. You see a bit of it now, that blue that you can see going from the upper left-hand corner to halfway down the right side. It's the only one that seems to be suffering from this, even though it has the Zeiss T-Star coating. So not so good to see that. And if I move up and down here, there we go. We can see it again, moving up and down. And that's not good to see at all. And finally, I'm going to move over here and aim towards the mountain. Very dark over there, so which one is the brightest out of these 3? Over to stills now with our bright red hibiscus flower. So the Vivo, yes, it's a little bit more saturated and vibrant looking, but it was like this. This is a very red flower. Now there is clipping present across all 3 of them. None of them really ace that, because you can see different shades of red sometimes have disappeared there. But overall, I think it's the Vivo that looks just a little bit more pleasant here with this particular photo. Now with selfies, I found that it's the OnePlus 13 that had the better selfies, more pleasant skin tones, yes, a little warmer looking, but the whites did tend to be a little more correct here. So when it comes to the selfies, I think it's OnePlus. And then our portrait photos, you can't deny there, looking at the stitching, that the Vivo is the best, with my daughter here and Snow. The other 2 are all right, but the Oppo is a little bit overexposed, the white details of Snow's fur. And for me, the skin tones with the Vivo, yes, they have been smoothed a little bit. And the skin tones with the OnePlus are probably the best. But overall, because of that stitching, the colors also, you get those different shades of the brown around Snow's eye. It's the Vivo that wins the portrait photos. The Vivo is 3.7 times optical zoom camera, periscopic, which handles macro shots too as well. I think does look the best with their super macro mode. You get a lot of those details with the pedals, and you get even those fine little furs that you can see right inside that you don't get that really with the OnePlus or the Oppo. With this photo, it's the main cameras, 50 megapixels, and they do look very similar.
across all three. However, it's the Vivo. When you take a look at Vera's left eye, the black fur, there are more details there. There's also more details with her shoulder and that fur, capturing a lot more different shades of the black with the Vivo. These three phones have 15mm ultra-wide cameras. They're quite similar, but when you closely look at them, the processing here, you can see the differences. Now, the Vivo, I think, has done the best here. It's more natural, the colors, using the Zeiss natural profile. There's a little bit too much processing going on with the Oppo, a little bit too much contrast, and second place for me, the OnePlus 13. Looking at our zoom photos now, first up, this is our main camera, just to give you an idea the kind of distances we can zoom in and the clarity we're gaining. I've now taken them all up to 3 times zoom, or 3.7 with the Vivo, which is its optical zoom max there. And then we've gone to a 10 times zoom finally. And you can see that for me, it is our Vivo. That's just the clearest, retains the most details. The others do look a little bit over-sharpened, the OnePlus especially there. Now, all three do suffer from a little bit of this. You get like lens flare sometimes in the light, and another 10 times shot here. You can see, for me, more details retained with that Vivo. Low light photos across all three is very good. But again, I think it is the Vivo, that Zeiss Natural preset that we do get with it. Their colors over the Hasselblad colors, I do prefer being a little bit more realistic. I find the photos are a little more brighter. They have more details, especially when I crop in now. You can clearly see the difference, the Vivo, between that and the OnePlus and our Oppo. It's the leader there when it comes to the low light performance. And again, with this shot here, you can see it's clearly brighter, more details, and it is well ahead of the other two, the Vivo. So these are my findings here. For the zoom camera, in general, the Oppo 6 times will give you a sharper looking image, but not always the case. Sometimes the processing on Oppo's side would be its downfall, and I found that the Vivo could pull ahead at, say, a 10 times shot, which doesn't really make sense having the 3.7 times optical versus 6. Surely the 6 would always be better, but it wasn't always the case. Portraits look best on the Vivo, better stitching, although we have the skin smoothing. Selfies, I found, because of the skin smoothing on the Vivo, that the OnePlus 13 tended to be a little bit better. The skin tones and the white balance there. The ultra-wide camera, that went to the Vivo. I found the Oppo to be a little bit over-processed and sharpened sometimes. And in the video performance, the Oppo was very good for the 4K. The Vivo also good. Stability, I would say the edge went to the Vivo. It is the older phone of these and has had more firmware updates, so it could give it a slight advantage. And then the audio, well, I think the OnePlus 13 most of the time was the clearest. However, it was more susceptible to the wind noise than OnePlus. So those are my findings there. Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching this video.